ideal of education accepted in home and school, and with all special barriers removed in every field of human activity, there is no reason why women should not become almost a human thing. It will be time enough then to consider whether she has a soul. These were the final lines of Crystal Eastman's speech. Now we can begin. While many women were discussing amongst themselves the issues of the 1920s, few had the courage to write anything about it. However, Crystal Eastman did not feel the same. In my speech, I will discuss Eastman's background, the basis of her speech, and the influence of her speech on the feminist movement. First, I'm going to talk about the background and accomplishments of Crystal Eastman. Crystal Eastman was born on July 25, 1881, in Massachusetts. Her father and mother were both Protestant ministers who were greatly affected by the Second Great Awakening and progressivism. Her brother was a social activist who greatly influenced much of her work. She received a law degree from New York University in 1907 and became one of the first female attorneys of the 20th century. She was the co-founder of the American Civil Liberties Union, and she led a peace movement against World War I. According to GreatWomen.org, Eastman also struggled to further women's rights, first suffrage and then equal rights, as co-author of the first Equal Rights Amendment. This amendment was later reformed, however she still gets credit for writing the basis of it. She was married twice, however during both of these marriages she spent most of her time traveling the U.S. and Europe. The National Women's History Museum stated on their official website that on her death at age 47, the nation hailed her as a symbol of what the free woman might be. Now that I've talked about the background of Crystal Eastman, I'm going to talk about the point she was trying to make in her speech. Eastman gave her speech, Now We Can Begin, in the early 1920s during the middle of the feminist movement. She discussed the fact that the fight doesn't end when suffrage is passed, however, it is rather just beginning. She talked about how no law or piece of paper could free women. However, true freedom would be found when men saw women as equals in both the workplace and at home. When women start to raise their children, she discussed the fact that they need to install in them the viewpoint of freedom in their views. She also discussed the importance of voluntary motherhood as proof of equality in the home. Eastman, when speaking about the woman's ability to choose motherhood, said, "Having children when they want them ensures some freedom of occupational choice. Those who do not wish to be mothers will not have an undesired occupation thrust upon them by accident." The American Civil Liberties Union, on their official website, discusses the fact that most women in the 1920s viewed motherhood as an occupation. They saw it as a job that they could never escape from, and one that continued even when they got home. For Eastman, feminism was not about economic freedom, but rather about emotional freedom. And she ends her first paragraph by saying freedom is a large word. Now that I've discussed the basis of her speech, I'm going to talk about the influence her speech had. Her speech was a stepping stone in the movement towards feminism. Her speech encouraged many other women to take a stand for what they believed was right and to have their opinions heard. The cry for the right to vote was one that had been heard for the last 100 years, starting in the early 1820s, and as stated on history.com, but on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was finally ratified, enfranchising all American women and declaring for the first time that they, like men, deserve all the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. While this was a huge step in the fight towards feminism, the fight was not over. Women continued to push for equality in the workplace and at home. They no longer wanted to be seen as mothers and housekeepers, however, as businesswomen and people who could hold political office. As stated on historyhouse.gov, the expectation was that women would be loyal followers under the banner of one or the other major party, with men charting the course. Because of the feminist movement and the inequality, this is why women today have the right to vote, can own property, run for office, and have a place in society. conclusion, Eastman played a key role in the execution of women's rights. Her background, her speech, and the influence of her speech had huge influence on this movement. Eastman lived what she believed, and she lived her life as a role model for what the free woman would look like. As she says in her speech, in fighting for the right to vote, most women have tried to be either non-committal or thoroughly respectable on every other subject. Now they can say what they are really after, and what they are after, in common with all the rest of the suffering world, is freedom.